Hey, Blistener. Welcome to episode number 103 of Listen Up. Do I have an episode for you today? So, there is a difference between being alive and actually living. And many of us, if we're honest, can spend a lot of time doing the first and avoiding the second. It's not because we're broken. It's not because we don't know any better. It's just because sometimes we just get to the point in our lives where we stop fighting for ourselves. Sometimes we never even begin. And sometimes we start to drift. Today's guest is someone I have talked about many times on this podcast. If you are a loyal listener, you already know her story. You've heard me reference her journey, her struggle, and her turning point. But for the very first time, you get to hear her story from her own words, in her own voice. My sister Kathy has been through things that most of us will never face. And what I want you to know before you even press play is this: she didn't quit on herself. She just never started fighting, not until she was dying. And that is when everything changed. This is her story. And I think somewhere in it, you will find a piece of yours. So let's dive in. Hi, sister.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm so excited that I have you on my podcast.
I know, right? It's been a long time coming.
What a privilege. Sis, I invited you on here today because you know that I have shared your story quite a bit on my podcast. I have actually 2 or 3 episodes where I've talked about your journey and your story, but I thought it was an important piece of the puzzle to share the story from your perspective. Because when you got sick, one of the things that you said to me, and it really impacted me deeply, you said, I don't know why God has spared me. That's one of the things you said. I don't know why God has spared me and why I didn't die in this process. And I asked you, well, if you had the answer, what would it be? So your response was, if I had the answer, it would be to help other people not go through what I've been through.
Yes.
So that nobody
True.
has to suffer what I've suffered.
Yes.
And that really impacted me tremendously. So that's what you're here for today.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
All right. So first, why don't we give a little bit of context and history? You share a little bit about what life was like before you had this major health scare. You struggled with your weight for a long time. Like, why don't you share a little bit about your story?
Well, it started off really young in my life. I guess there was issues growing up, and I took a lot out of it eating. I would go through drive-throughs. When I first started driving, I remember I had a lot of stress. I had school, I had home life, I had things. I took a lot of my stress out on eating. What I would do, I would go through drive-throughs and go to Burger King's, go to McDonald's by myself. Just took my car, took me there. And
So would you say that food became a source of comfort for you?
yeah, absolutely. Some people use cigarettes, some people use alcohol, some people use other things. I guess for me, it was food. I didn't identify it at the time, but I guess that's what it was. Fast forward all my life, I had these bad habits.
I actually remember when you were little, or I remember a story about when you were little that, and I look at it now and I think to myself, you don't know what you don't know, but I remember my mom saying that she used to buy all this like junk food for our brother, Andy, because he was very thin.
Right.
But then she would not let you have the junk food.
Right.
So then she would put it like on the top of the cabinet, high, so that you couldn't get to it because you had a weight problem, but he didn't have a weight problem.
Right.
And then she would buy him all this food. And then she said that she would find like wrappers of the food under your bed.
Under the bed.
So from a very young age, it was,
I guess, like, it started from then. I just didn't recognize it until later on in life.
Of course, I think about that now, and mom didn't know any better. Like, she thought she thought
She was doing me a favor.
she was doing you a favor, and she was also doing Andy a favor. But I look at that now and I'm thinking, no, that food wasn't good for anybody. Like nobody should have been eating
Right.
that food. We shouldn't have had that food in the house. But at the time, we just didn't have the awareness
Right.
of what processed foods and junk food did to our bodies. Like, we looked at it as, if you're overweight, you don't eat it. But if you're not overweight, you're good.
Right. Exactly.
So that, I grew up eating a lot of junk food.
Yes.
I just didn't have the gene to where I didn't struggle with weight problems. But I think it's interesting how people tend to judge someone who is overweight for eating poorly, but they may eat exactly the same way, even if their body doesn't respond the same.
Because people aren't more interested in what you look like than what you do behind the scenes.
That's right. That's right.
And you wear it on your body. And that's been my, I guess, my struggle my whole life.
Yeah.
I've worn it on my body. Whatever I was going through, I was wearing it on my body. So even until today, as you know, I got to an enormous amount of weight, almost 400 pounds, because I've had those bad habits all my life.
I know you've had bad habits your whole life, but a question that has always lingered with me is, what about your life prevented you from addressing it earlier? Like have you ever gone back to think about, like, how did I get to that point?
I can't tell you if it was an unresolved issues in my life, personal issues, or the fact that I just floated through life being not, you're aware, but not really caring about the outcome, because you don't realize the effect that the things that you do have on you until they actually hit you with it.
I remember us having a conversation once. You had an infected toe and it resulted in an amputation.
Yes.
And we've shared that story many times, or one of the things that surprised me so much was when you landed in the hospital with that infection and you were as sick as you were really surprised.
Yeah, because you don't think that things can happen to you. I was sick. I can tell you, I probably was sick all my life, and you get used to being sick, I guess, or that became a new normal or a normal for me. I was sick all the time, and it didn't faze me until it hit me.
And when that happened, that you had this, I remember looking at you and you being like shocked that you were so sick. And we could all see it because you wear it you're wearing your issues on your body, like you said. So we could all see it. So we were all worried about you for a long time, but you never really behaved as if you were worried about your life. Like, it didn't ever seem to faze you. One of the things that I've always admired about you so much, like so deeply admired, is I felt like you always owned your reality. You were never one of these people who would complain and then, say, oh, I can't believe I'm so overweight, and then be eating behind our backs or whatever. You kind of just like owned who you were, and you were perfectly fine with your life the way that it was. But we could see that you were struggling, and you were we were afraid that the inevitable would be that something would happen to you. And I asked you at that time, I'm like, Kathy, one, you were surprised that it happened. And two, you started wanting to fight for your life. And I thought, why haven't you been fighting all this time? And you said something to me that was really fascinating. And I don't know if you remember what you said to me when I said, why are you fighting now?
I don't remember what I said at the time.
You said, because before I could compensate.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about what that looked like.
Well, I could no longer basically hide that things had come to a head. My problems, before I had problems, I was diabetic, I have high blood pressure, all these other things, and I was severely overweight. But I lived through that, and I got through it begrudgingly, but I got through it
With pain.
with pain, and I lived with pain, and I was in my own sordid way. I was okay in the pain because I got used to living like that.
Mm.
Then, when I got sick, and all this came to head, I mean, all these other things started coming about that I didn't know anything about. When I went through dialysis, when I had the pulmonary embolism, and all those other things that had nothing to do with my amputated toe or my foot. I'm like, this is a severe problem.
Mm.
This is more than what I thought I ever had. I knew I had issues, but I didn't know they were as bad as they were. So I said, I have to do something. It's at that point, it's either do or die, because I could have died for all the things that I went through. People die for less, as you know.
And more importantly than dying, I think what you've shown me is, and what I've seen in others, is you could have stopped trying to live.
Yes. Yeah. But that wasn't an option, because I don't think, as much as I became comfortable in my own weight and in my own life that it was sick, I truly don't feel that I came from a place of being a quitter, per se. That's not necessarily what I was made of. I just didn't care enough.
Wow. Wow.
I didn't care enough.
You didn't quit on yourself because you didn't even start trying. That wasn't the game you were playing.
Yeah. But when I was faced with those problems, it's either I sat in that bed and rotted and decided not to get up again. I said, well, I'm going to do this. I don't know how. I'm going to do it. And as you know, today I'm walking. And it's a miracle that I'm walking. It's a miracle that I'm here.
Mm.
And that, you have to give that credence, because that's important. There's something higher. And I think that what helped me throughout that process, I mean, I'm not a Bible beater or anything like that, as you know, but I have a lot of faith in God.
I remember when you were sick, you were in so much pain. It was 24 hours pain.
Yes.
It was I've never seen anyone suffer the way you were suffering when, at the end, when your toe was really sick. And I would try all these things. I would try Joe Dispenza meditations. I would try just different things, to try to help you out of the pain. And nothing resonated. And then I finally started prayers, and I would put Emily P. Freeman's Quiet Collection. She has great prayers. And I would just pray the Our Father with you and the Hail Mary. And the only thing that would take your pain away, the thing that you would connect and resonate with, was prayer and Lulu's dancing song.
Yes. Yes. Because those are things that meant something to me. Number one, the prayer is because I'm a highly spiritual person. I'm not like I said, I'm not a Bible reader, but I do believe in God. And I think that that's gotten me through a lot of hard times. Because you could very easily see yourself in the position that you're in, not know how to get out, and say, I'm done.
Well, you were in that position. You did not know how to get out.
I did not know, but I knew somehow I would. I didn't know how. But somehow I knew that I would. And I still, to this day, know that every day I'm still going to make it somehow.
Something that I find interesting about you, because we've had many conversations about your health and the struggles that you've had with your weight. And I remember once, we were talking about my dad and how he passed away. And this was before the amputation, but you said to me, look, your dad took care of himself and he passed away. When it's your day, it's your day. And, I I know that when it's my time, it's going to be my time. And it was like you were very disconnected from fear of dying or fear of deteriorating or fear of illness. It was like the universe would whisper to you and say like, hey, pay attention, pay attention. And you were like, no, I'm not listening. I'm not listening, which is good and bad. It was good in one way. What I admired about it was you almost had this reckless abandon of knowing that it wasn't your time yet. So I think that that's like a really cool thing. And then it's bad in that you weren't confronting the truth of your situation.
Right.
And you forced the universe to shout at you. It was
Right.
like, okay, if you're not going to pay attention, like we're going to really make it serious, right?
That's right.
Where do you think that came from? That like laissez-faire attitude that you had towards like that knowing that you knew you weren't going to die.
Again, a power bigger than me. Somehow I knew that God was watching out for me. He's always been watching out. I've always felt that. He's always watched for me. Even though I'm stubborn at times, and I went against the grain, did things that I knew that I wasn't supposed to be doing, I knew at the end, I have a purpose. He has a purpose for me. And I'm still trying to find out what that is. But he walks with me, and he's with me all the time. And I know that.
So I have a belief about purpose. I don't think that there's, well, not that I don't think. My belief with purpose is that it is more important to live purposefully than it is to find a purpose. So I'm curious when you say, I don't know what that purpose is yet. I'm curious to know a little bit more about that.
What I'm saying is I don't know the answer as to why I was spared, why me, why I'm the chosen one. Because there's so many people that I can tell you about that aren't here. And when I went through what I went through medically, I really wasn't supposed to be here today, but I am. So why that reason is, I don't know. All I know is that every day I have to wake up and say, okay, I'm here. There's a reason that I'm here. I have to make the best of this day and make every day count.
You know what I think is really cool about that? You're not asking, why me did I get amputated?
No.
Or why me was I the one chosen to struggle with weight? Why aren't you asking those questions?
Because I'm not a person, and actually Mom said that to me in the hospital. She was like, I admire that about you, because if it were me in your shoes, I'd be asking, why me? And not once have I heard you say that. I said, well, because it doesn't serve me to wallow in the why. It doesn't matter. The fact is I'm here. It is what it is. And you have to look forward.
I see something even a little deeper than that, which is going back to you owning your reality. I think you've always had the awareness of accepting responsibility for your participation in things.
Yes.
So you've said a couple of times, like, I've done things where I know I'm not supposed to do them, but I do them anyway. Or yes. You have disregarded certain cares for your well-being with your habits and your lifestyle and things like that. And you've had a little bit of that reckless abandon, and you've participated in it, but never as a victim. Never as a victim.
No, I did it consciously.
You know, I have to tell you that that's something that I really admire about you, because I think that we all struggle, and we all have areas of our lives where we are not acting the way we're supposed to be acting, or we're throwing caution to the wind, or we have some reckless abandon for some area of our lives. But not everybody has the consciousness to own that. And oftentimes we participate in our own reality, and then we wonder why things happen to us, right? Like then we blame God, or we blame life for our circumstances when we participate. And what I see in you is You thank God for all the good things, but you don't blame him for the bad. And that's special. Not everybody has that.
No, I can't. I can't blame him for the bad. Things are meant to be the way that they're supposed to be. And you own what's yours, and what's not, you don't. And you face things the way that they come. I mean, that's the only mentality that I can have. And I think that's what got me through being in that bed all those months. And fast forward, being here today.
So your life has changed pretty dramatically since the amputation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what life looks like on the other side of this amputation?
Well, prior to all of this, I think one of the biggest things, apart from my weight loss, because obviously I'm no longer 400 pounds. I think that the fact that I now say yes to things. I was a very close-minded person. Not that I hid, because I never necessarily hid. I just didn't participate. I didn't show up for certain things. I didn't show up for me. I didn't give myself the opportunity to shine or to live. I just existed. And
why, Kathy? Why? Why do you think you just existed?
Because I never felt I was good enough.
Why?
I don't know. I think that is something deeper than I can answer.
Because you were loved. God knows you were loved.
Oh, yeah. Love always existed, but I don't know. I just never thought maybe I was good enough to accept being, accepted and saying yes and showing up. And I don't know. That's how I felt. I don't feel like that today.
You used to say no a lot. And I used to think that you had a really good, healthy boundaries because you're very good about setting boundaries of what you want and what you don't want. Like you're very good about, again, to not to beat a dead horse, but to own your reality and your things. And I used to think, but why all the boundaries? Why all the, so it could be tricky because you showed up with confidence. And when you said no to life, you showed up like that's the life you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then you didn't complain about your life. And then you didn't throw yourself a pity party. So at some point, I remember feeling like I wanted to support you and help you in getting healthier. But what I was called to do is just love you and accept you as you were.
Which is the best thing you could do. And you still do. Because at the end of the day, I'm still me.
Yeah.
I'm still the same. And I'm the same but different.
But I guess the reason I'm saying that is because think about the listener that's listening to this podcast that has a sibling or a parent or a child or a spouse that is putting these firm boundaries and saying no to certain things in their life and is engaging in a life that seems self-destructive. And there's like a disconnect, right? Like how do we get through to that person?
Right.
Think about that person. How could we support the person who doesn't even know that they don't know that they're good enough? Does that make sense what I'm asking you? How could I have supported you better back then?
You couldn't have, because you've always loved me. Mom's always loved me. Andy's always loved me. My family's always loved me. I had to be the one to be strong enough to say, I want something better for myself. I don't want to just be in this limited world that I lived in, because it was safe for me to say no and not show up for this and not show up for that and be a homebody and just not do anything. That was safe for me. Nobody bothered me. But then to come out and say, okay, I am willing to do something different. I'm daring to live life a little bit differently and give myself a chance that I didn't think I was worthy of back then.
Why do you think you're worthy of it now?
Well, first of all, I feel, number one, I have the obligation to myself and to God,
Why?
because not many people get a second chance that I was given. And that's not something that you can just, not take advantage of and look at and really sincerely live that. You don't throw that away. There's a reason for that. So if God gave me this chance, it's my responsibility to take advantage of it the best way that I can and live the life that he needs me to live, because he has me here for a reason. If he wanted to take me, he would have taken me. He could have, as you know.
You always thought that. You always felt that.
And
you always felt like you knew you weren't leaving yet.
But he gave me a chance. It's like he told me, I kind of feel like he told me, listen, I'm giving you a chance. Let's see what you're made of.
So here's the $1 million question. Are you grateful for the amputation and for those 5 months in the hospital?
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
Had I not gone through that process, I don't think I'd be here today. I don't think I would have said yes to life. I think that my life would have been just a very linear life, the way that I was living it. I don't think I would have had the desire to want to do things different or to lead the path. My life has changed in the sense that now I'm aware I'm here. I have something to do. I still don't know what that is, but I'm trying to show up the best way I know how. I'm a work in progress like everybody. But I know there's something better for me. And that's the difference. The difference is that I care. I want to be here. I want to show up for myself. And I still make mistakes. It's not perfect. But I'm a better person because I know now, whereas I didn't know then, that I matter, that it's important.
Wow, that's beautiful. Do you remember the conversation that we had, like that couple days? It was the day that you went to see Kristen. Remember you went to see Kristen, my dermatologist, for your toe? I mean, you could barely walk at that point.
Yes.
You were, like you said, almost 400 pounds. You could barely walk and you had this infected toe. We took you to the dermatologist and we sat down in the car. Do you remember the conversation we had in the car?
Vaguely, but yeah.
So we talk about, it's funny because I remember these things so clearly, but I think you had so much mental fog. You were so foggy from, maybe it's like a combination of things that you don't remember as much as I do. But so we sat down to have this conversation and I looked at you and I said, Kathy, I know this isn't your fault. It's your responsibility. Like you've participated.
Right.
But it's also not your fault. Right. Which is a really hard thing because it took me a long time to understand that. For a long time, I thought you were to blame for your weight and your struggles.
I know.
Because I did not look in the mirror and say, well, I'm eating the same junk food and my brother's eating the same junk food, but my sister's the only one gaining weight. What's wrong with this picture? I didn't have that compassion. I didn't have that grace. I just thought you were just, I don't know, making worse choices. But when you look at our choices, my choices were just as bad as yours. Like I had no leg to stand on, but I didn't have that awareness. But over the years, because of the work that I did, because of what I learned about nutrition, because of what I learned about health, I came to understand that the food that we are given creates an effect in our bodies. And when somebody is struggling with obesity, that creates a momentum, like a snowball effect, that you stop at some point, you're not even participating in the weight gain. It's just your insulin, your cortisol, like everything that's working in your inner body is so out of control that it doesn't matter if you eat a little bit more or a little bit less, or if you try to eat a vegetable versus a pizza, you're not moving the needle. Right. And I had read books about it. I had become educated about it. So I could finally understand it. And I sat with you and I said, this isn't your fault. I know this is not your fault. Like, there is a snowball that has taken over you, and you're not even driving the car anymore. Like, this has been bigger than you. And you looked at me and you said, thank you. You were so grateful in that moment for somebody seeing you and giving you permission to be human and not judging you or telling you have to do this, you have to do that. And in that, do you remember that?
Yes, I do very vividly now
Yeah.
that you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had that conversation, and I said, Kathy, all we have to do is tip the scales. Let's change the momentum. Let's change the direction of your life. Let's just tip the scale. And that's when you introduced me to Lulu. And that's when we started having this conversation. And of course, things got a lot worse before they ever got better. So
Right.
that conversation felt like it fell flat, right? Because just when I thought that maybe we could start to tip the scale, then you were hospitalized, and everything that happened, 6
After that.
months of just torture for you and all these other things. But now looking back from that conversation, I felt like that conversation was almost like a pact we made, in which you gave the universe permission to tip the scales.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the outcome we wanted, because we didn't want you to have an amputated foot, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But from that point forward, you were never the same person again.
Well, because when you kind of told me, no, this is not your fault, and all the other conversations that we had, like, oh, I can't believe you're eating all this stuff, and da da da, and I even think that changed the dynamic between the two of us, because you're seeing me more as a human, and not just, oh, you're sitting there eating pizza all day or eating chips and binging on food. You gave me that, okay, say sis, I get where you're at.
I remember you even telling me in that conversation, sister, I don't even eat that much.
No, I don't binge eat.
I remember you telling me, I don't eat that much. I don't even know how I'm gaining this much weight. Like, I'm not even eating that much. And it broke my heart, because I saw in you this helplessness of like, I don't even know what's happening anymore.
I mean, when I look at it now, I can recognize that it's what I ate, not how much I ate. It's what I ate. And I tell you, I still struggle with it, because that person is still alive. So this is a struggle that I deal with every day. I don't hide that. Why? Because I want to make sure that I don't fall into the same. I don't want to fall into the same. Because I'm still Kathy. I still have what they call, I don't know if this is the right word, a food addiction. I don't know if that's the right thing. And I'm still drawn to certain things. But I know that if I go there, I know what the outcome is. And I don't want to do that anymore.
I would say you are slowly but surely killing that Kathy, that identity.
Yeah.
You're releasing that identity. And I would disagree with you. I don't think that Kathy is alive the way you think she is. I think that you have conquered a lot of that identity and become way more intentional and way more mindful.
Yeah, but there's still parts of me, that is that same 17-year-old girl going through that drive-through and using that as an outlet. There's still parts of me like that.
Yeah, but the other day, you told me that you went to the drive-thru, and then what did you do?
And I left.
You drove away.
I drove away. Why? Because when I saw what I saw, all those calories, it just hit me in the face. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this.
Mm.
Have I made bad decisions? Absolutely.
Mm.
But that wasn't the day.
Yeah. So you said, thank you, by the way, about saying that it changed our dynamic. That because I've always adored you and we've always been so close, but I've also always wanted to support you and help you, and then I do this work for a living, and then and I'm like, the one person I cannot help is my sister. Like I I wish that I could help, and and I can't, and it was a very frustrating time for me for a long time. Um, but I appreciate that you noticed, that how our dynamic did change when I mean, I accepted you from a long time before, but to actually vocalize it and share
Yes.
that with you, I think was an important part of our journey. And I did notice that you changed in how you responded to me when I just surrendered and and accepted you fully without any judgment, without any pretenses, just like, this is my sister, this is who she is, this is her journey, this is what her soul has come here to learn in this life, and I am here just to love her as she is. So I think maybe that's, if we could say anything to the person who's listening, is love your person.
Yeah. Just love them. Just love them. Everybody has a journey, whether you agree with it or not, or understand it or not. It doesn't cost you anything to just love. That's free.
It's free.
The love is free. And it's so empowering to that person to feel that.
And there's also something really powerful about trusting that the universe will take care of it for you.
Yes.
Like it did with you.
Yes.
Right? Like I didn't have to do anything to fix you or support you or help you.
No.
You did it all by yourself. You got support from those around you, but it was your own personal journey, your crisis, that led you to finally accept yourself and love yourself and start making better decisions for yourself. And I think that's such an important thing.
Well, I think when you're hit with all that, you have a choice, but I chose to take control of that.
So you said a little earlier, I'm daring to do things. And I love that you use that word because I know that your word of the year is dare.
Yes.
And I also love the fact that, and I think this is a cool thing to talk about, that before this happened, like before, the Kathy before the amputation versus the Kathy after the amputation. Before the amputation, you wouldn't have been caught dead in one of my programs. Like,
oh no,
you wouldn't have done any of my programs. You wouldn't have, and you've always been like my biggest fan, my biggest supporter. My sister and I, we're totally different. We are completely opposites, but I love her and she's wonderful. That's just not my thing.
right.
But now you're telling a different story.
I'm all in. I'm all in. Well, it started out, okay, so here I have a sister that everybody loves and adores, not more than me,
Not more than you,
but more so respects and honors what you do. And there's value in that. And here I am wanting to make a change in my life and not knowing how to do it. So I said, okay, well, and I never wanted to be part of it because I never wanted to be in the spotlight. But when you asked me about what all this meant to me after I went through what I went through and how I wanted to affect the change, you put me in the spotlight. And at that point, you had to take the ball and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be part of what you did because there was so much value in that for me in growth. And I do think also that the fact that it's brought us closer together, that's a byproduct, but the growth for me is good. Me saying yes to me.
You saying yes to you. And you saying yes to community.
Yes. That I wasn't open to it.
Something that I never seen you do before.
that I was not open to. I think what brought me to dare, to that word, was when Luli asked me to say that speech. And
so wait, so let's give a little bit of context. So my friend Luli B has a community called Boost, and she has an event every year called Spark. And this year, for her Spark event, she had the idea of inviting Kathy to speak at Spark and share her story. And I have to say that of everything that happened in that day, of everyone who took the stage, of every story that was shared, the highlight of that entire event was this woman's speech right here. It was incredible.
And to think that I would never have had the nerve. And actually, when she called me and asked me to do it, and I remember telling her, Luli, you don't know what you're asking me to do. You really don't. I'm here shaking in my boots, literally. She goes, well, if you're not ready this year, maybe next year. I said, you know what? It's either now or never. And I remember feeling scared. Scared, because I've always been one that, like I said, didn't want to be part of the limelight, didn't want to be in front of people. And then I also struggled with the fact that here you are, you, my sister, is a big personality. You're a speaker. You affect a lot of change, and I am completely different in the sense that I'm an introvert. And I don't like to speak in front of people. That's never been something that I was good at doing. So I didn't want to let you down either. I'm like, this is a tall order for me, and I was in front of all your people, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to make a fool out of you either. But I decided that this is about me. This is about my journey. I'm just going to talk about it. And I trusted that God was going to get me through it because I was still scared.
And you did a brilliant job. You did a brilliant job. And you were saying before I gave that context that boost is what led you to dare. So finish that thought.
Well, after I finished the speech, and then you asked, in your well, what is the word for the year for you, and that brought me to dare. I said, I'm going to dare to do things differently. And it started with that.
And dare is one of my frameworks. So it was very meaningful to me that you chose that word, because dare stands for dream or desire, aligned action, release, and enjoy. So you have a dream or a desire, you take aligned action toward that dream or desire, you release what no longer serves you, including identities.
Yes.
And you enjoy the magic and the synchronicities and the rewards that remind you you're on path.
Yes.
And when you chose that word dare, I knew it was so fitting for you, because every step you've taken since the day that you said, I'm going to fight for my 20%, which we have a whole podcast on. Yeah. I'm going to fight for this 20% chance of surviving, of keeping my leg. You've been daring ever since.
Yes.
But to declare it and to make it your intention for the year is a whole different ballgame. So what are you daring to do this year?
Well, I'm daring to maybe travel, do things by myself, go places, see things I haven't seen. It could be as easy as maybe just getting in my van and driving somewhere and just sit by a beach or just do something I've never really done. I mean, I've done it with a family. I've just never done it for me.
You said something to me the other day, and I know you'll remember this. The day that Lulu came and we did the sunrise walk, you said something to me about YouTube and your life. Do you remember that?
Well, I've been told to put my stuff on YouTube. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
No.
You said, I'm tired of living
Oh,
vicariously
yes.
through.
Yes.
Okay, so you say it.
That basically that all I do is sit in front of the TV and watch Lulu on YouTube and all my YouTube people, personalities. And I'm tired of doing that. I just want to go and do it
You said, I
myself.
don't want to live vicariously through YouTube. I want to live my own
I
life.
want to live my own. And I don't know what that means or exactly what I'm going to do or where that's going to take me. And I'm working towards it. But I have that desire. And as a matter of fact, I talked to Andy, my brother. I talked to Andy about it, and he goes, "I love that you have all this, but we have to consider this and consider that." And because, but I love, and I don't want to take that away from you. You know,
Yeah,
we have to consider all these things, but I love that you have the wanting that you
that's
never
right.
did.
That's right.
That's really cool that you do that.
You, this on this side of you, you are craving life. You are craving action. You are craving
Yes,
adventure. You are craving community. And I believe strongly that the craving those things forces you into mindful eating, forces you into releasing that version of Kathy who drives through the drive through, because you know that to live that life, the price of admission is to make better food choices.
yes,
And you want that life now.
and yes, I want it. I deserve it.
You deserve it.
Why not? But before I didn't think I deserved it.
Mm.
That I wasn't worthy of it. But I'm worthy of it.
I would even say you didn't even know you wanted it.
Yeah. I didn't want anything. I didn't care about anything.
Mm.
I cared about my family. I didn't care about me.
Wow.
Now more I care about me. Now it's like, okay, what about me? What can I do that's different so so I can get up and do certain things? I mean, I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to rip it up all over the world because that's not a reality, but do things that are
I
different.
mean, you never know.
I don't know where life is going
There's
to
so
take me.
many, Kathy, this is the thing. You're not done with the journey, you're just beginning it.
Oh yeah.
This side of your transformation is the tip of the iceberg. There is so much for you to claim. There's so many iterations of you for you to step into that you're just getting started.
Oh yeah. And I'm excited to see where this is going to take me. And one of the things is like now for example, clearing out on Saturday mom's house, getting stuff, I told Andy, you know what I want to do, Andy? I want to take the seats out of my car, and I'm forced now to, I'm going to use my car as a little closet and see what that works like, and take the
Wow.
stuff out of mom's house. And I'm saying, I'm going to see what this looks like. I'm taking steps.
I love it.
Why not? What do I have to lose?
Mm,
I have everything to gain.
that's right. So, what would you tell the person who may be sitting watching this, who isn't where you were yet, like isn't at the point of amputation or crisis or that kind of, but is at the point where they don't care, they don't think they're worthy, they're comfortable in their own safety, and their world has closed in on them? What do you say to that person?
There's a life beyond those walls, and it's worth living, taking a step outside and looking outside and peeking at it and see if you want to go there, because you know what, there's life beyond those walls. I lived in a wall, and now I can see a little bit of life out there, and I want to go see it. I want to go see it. I don't know what's out there, but I want to go see it, something different. But
Mm,
there's life there, and love yourself enough to take the chance on yourself,
mm,
because you're worth it.
mm.
Nobody can take it for you. You have to take it. Those steps, you have to take them on your own.
Mm.
Nobody can do that.
And I know that you have worked very closely with a health coach.
Yes.
How important do you think that work has been in your journey of overcoming, of getting to this point in your life where you have lost all of this weight and you're finally daring to live a better life?
Well, first, I mean, even till today, it keeps me focused, keeps me remembering what my goal is, because you can lose that,
Easily.
So
We drift.
We drift, yeah, and it happens to me, and just they hold a mirror to your face and say, "Hey, this is still important. It's still there, and it's a reminder that you're important. That you have to focus on that, because when you drift, your mind wanders, and then you stop thinking about what's important. Then it takes you back. Say,
Yeah.
okay, this is where I'm at. I have to go back and continue my journey because I'm here for a reason. So I have to get back on track."
I'm really proud of you for not quitting on the health coach, for like sticking with it and continuing to show up. So now you show up with your health coach, you come to the well, you're constantly redirecting. And I've seen such a big change in you as a result.
If I didn't do that, I would fall right back. So I have to do that. I have to show up for me.
It's incredible. So this is our last question for today. And thank you for being such an amazing guest. I ask everybody this question. You know that I live a life in trying to help people find bliss. So what's something that brings you bliss these days? Something that sparks bliss.
What sparks bliss for me is to know or to look forward to what tomorrow can bring with joy. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So every day I wake up and say, okay, well, what can I do today? What can I do that's going to serve me? Bliss is being able to do those things and not being limited by my own beliefs. That's blissful for me.
I've seen that. Like, for example, you walk into my house, you walk with a walker, and then all of a sudden you walk into my house and you're like strolling in with no walker. And I'm like, what the heck? And you're like, look at me, sis. And I can see the bliss in your face.
Yeah.
When you do, another time I saw it we were at a wedding recently together. Yes. And they had that 360 machine.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, hey, Kat, you want to come do the 360 machine? And you would have never in a million years done that before. And you're like, sure. And you got up and you climbed onto the thing and we did the 360 and you were dancing to the music. And I could see you dancing and enjoying your life. And you had the time of your freaking life at that wedding.
Yeah, and you had asked me, I said, the music is great, which I thought was wonderful. And she goes, why are you dancing? I said, I couldn't dance at that time because of, technical issues with my shoes. And I have sometimes limiting issues with shoes and my foot and my amputation. But I was dancing in my chair and I was happy and I was enjoying it like if I was right on the stage dancing.
And I saw it.
And I really enjoyed it. And as you know, I would have never gone to a wedding. I didn't want to. I didn't care for that. I showed up because why not?
So I love to end with this of getting to the point in your life where seeing what you're capable of and actually doing it, like showing up with curiosity and then seeing your own capacity, sparks bliss. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah. At least I have the desire where I didn't have it before. It's a desire to live. I didn't have that before. I lived, but I wasn't living.
Well, thank you for being a guest on my podcast today.
Thank you for having me, sis.
I love you and I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy to be on this journey with you.
Oh, I couldn't be happier to have you spearhead this amazing this amazing community, what you've opened up for me, because that's a gift and that I never wanted to take from you because I only wanted to see you as my sister. But you're not only my sister, you're just an incredible human. And I see the work that you do and I'm so proud of that.
Thank you, sister.
I love you.
I love you. That's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for being here. I am deeply, deeply grateful to connect. If you're loving this podcast, I'd love if you'd follow, rate, or leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Those reviews help us so, so much. And if you know of someone who could really use a voice like mine in their head, please share this episode with them. Now, if you're feeling called to keep the conversation going, come join us inside the Blissin' Up community on Facebook. It is a free space to reflect and root into intention together. You can find the link in the show notes or just search Blissin' Up with Caroline de Posada on Facebook. I'd love to welcome you in. Until next time, take care and keep noticing the sparks of bliss in your life.